Well, welcome everyone to another exciting edition of the Magic Sandwich Show, where it is a huge pleasure to be joined by Concordance, who we haven't seen too often recently, and also hogtiechamp. And I think we've got a couple of quite interesting topics to discuss, which we'll be coming to in a few moments' time. The first one relates to the issue of Ashley Madison, the fact it's been hacked and the fact that the information is now in the public domain, which is going to be kind of interesting. I guarantee if you can wait around for a few moments, you're going to find this quite interesting. Okay, but anyway, as I always like to do, well, firstly, welcome everyone, Hogtie and Concordance. Can you be heard?
I hope so.
There we go.
I hope so too.
There we go. Sounds like we can. And it sounds like we're all loud and clear. That's wonderful. As you know, I like to start the show with a quiz. Last week, I think we only had Hogtie because Ozzy turned up late or didn't turn up at all. I can't remember. So Hogtie kind of, I think, lost to the audience. But now we've got Concordance and Hogtie. So there's a couple of questions for you. Things that are sort of like been in the news recently. But I don't know quite how well you follow them. We're going to find out. The first question is this. Today, Usain Bolt won the World Championship 100 meters. I have to say, if you watch sport and you watch that race, I don't see how he won it, because it looks to me as if he came second. But he did win. And he won in a time of 9 seconds, 9.79 seconds. Now, his world record, he holds the world record for the 100 meters, is 9.58 seconds. My first question to you both is this. When the 100 meters was first run in the modern Olympics back in 1896, how much slower was the winner of the race? As I say, Usain Bolt, world record 9.58 seconds. How much slower was the winner in the 1896 Olympics? And of course, as ever, this is open to the audience, so and the viewers. So I'd be interested to see, before you want to commit yourselves, let's see what the QuantumOverlord is saying. Perhaps 11 seconds. Somebody's saying 10.5. Somebody said 30 seconds. No, I don't think it's 30.
I think he means more 30 more than the current record. But 30 seconds.
That's even crazier.
Oh, wait a minute. I thought that was half. Okay, sorry. Yeah, that's even.
So
30% more.
Well, no. The answer I have is specific.
Didn't answer.
Whoa! We weren't guessing yet, right?
Oh
yeah,
no, sorry. He's clarifying with the. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, the figure
wasn't giving the answer.
I'm not guessing. The figure I have is a specific number of seconds. So, who would like to go first on this one?
Yeah, I'll volunteer.
Okay, how many seconds? We'll do it in seconds. How many more seconds, or how many seconds slower, was the winner of the 100 meters in 1896?
Yeah, I'm going to guess 3 seconds slower.
3 seconds, okay. And Hogtie, how many would you put it on?
I swear, I thought of this before he said that. I was going to say 12.8 seconds.
No, I want
pretty much 3.
I want.
Well, that's
how
3.1 seconds.
2.1 seconds.
That's 3.1 seconds slower than I believe you said it was 9.7. What was the current record?
The current record is 9.58.
Yeah, so you can go with like 3.5.
Yeah, okay.
3.5, and you're going Hogtie.
Yeah. No, I'm saying 3.5.
No, I'm saying 3. He's saying he could go
3.5. Okay, well, yeah. I have to say the winner is Concordance.
I wanted to change my answer to 3.1 using Price's Right style.
You almost got it absolutely spot on, because the answer is 2.4, which, if my maths is correct, means that the time was 12.98 seconds, which I thought for a moment, Hogtie, you were saying it was your answer. But yeah, now what strikes me about this?
What did I say my answer was? Didn't I say 12.8?
You did say 12.8, and then you said, no, I want to change it to 3.5 seconds.
No,
more.
I was just doing the math. I'm doing the math based on your 13.5.
Okay,
no,
well,
I said
12.8. Well, it's 12.
I'm sending the tapes to the commissioner. This is unacceptable.
Yeah, I'm sorry, the judges ruled. I win.
Yeah, I have to say, I kind of thought you were getting close to it, Hogtie, but no, I'm going to have to give that point to concordance. But it raises an interesting point, because when I was in my teens, healthy, fit, training a lot, I could have done the 100 meters in less time than that. So if I'd been running in 1896, I could have been a gold medal winner. But it begs the question in a kind of way. That's a huge, to me, that's a huge difference. I don't know what the percentage is. It's like almost 20, well, it's about 25% quicker. Is there, do you think there was a limit to how fast someone is ever going to be able to do the 100 meters? And if so, what is going to be the limiting factors? And what is the best time in your view? And I know that you're probably not fans of sport in the same way as I am, but there's got to be a limit to it, hasn't there?
There's obviously a limit. I mean, once we start getting into negative numbers, I will suspect illegal performance enhancing drugs. But
once time travel is invented, yeah.
I mean, I can see that 9 seconds.
Well, how about this? What about a
seconds
cyborg
could,
Olympics?
9 seconds could be broken. But
what if they're allowed to use whatever mechanical advantage they want, right? The mechanical advantage of the human leg is a function of what? It's linked to the lever arm, essentially, right? And then the ability of those muscles to pull against that lever, you can increase muscle mass and so on. What if they were allowed to use whatever cyborg type legs they want? Now we're just talking about engine efficiency and weight to thrust ratios, and then pretty soon you've got rocket powered legs.
What you're talking about is Pistorius in a way, aren't you? Oscar Pistorius, still I think in prison, but he was amputated below the knee and used blades, and there was a big question about whether he could compete in the normal Olympics because these blades may give him an advantage. And I have to say that I would have thought they probably did. And he did quite well. It was at the 400 meters that he competed in the official Olympics as opposed to the Paralympics. And he did seriously well. But yeah, that kind of, I wouldn't say it was cheating, obviously, because it was allowed. But if they've got enough spring and whatever in them, you can see that they could give a huge advantage.
Well, it raises the question of why things like doping are illegal if they're sort of enhancements of human performance, but things like high-tech running shoes aren't. Things with I don't know what the rules are in various different official circuits. But I presume they're allowed to use shoes that enhance their leverage. They're allowed to train at altitudes. We're sort of talking unmodified human ability, and I wonder why that limit is set beyond. It would create an arms race after which you would end up with people that weren't quite people. If there's enough incentive, right? I mean, is that the concern? What do you think is the concern?
Well, I think it's an interesting question because it seems somewhat arbitrary to determine what an athlete can and cannot take. I mean, there's all sorts of glucose solutions and whatever that I'm sure that they're allowed to take, but they're not allowed to take other prohibited
human growth
drugs.
Hormone,
or
even in
like
the case of Lance Armstrong, it was a compound he was taking, at least in principle, for his chemotherapy. He was taking a doping drug that enhanced the amount of red blood cells he's producing. So he had superoxygenation capability because he was taking a drug designed to treat patients who have their red blood cells lysed by chemo. And that was sort of his defense at the time, and then it all kind of spiraled out of control.
he's not sort of like really accepting his guilt, is he? He's sort of saying, yes, I did it, but I'm the scapegoat, which is an odd thing. Can I just?
Well, I think he's right, though. I think didn't they said if you knocked out everyone who had ever had a positive doping result, that the Tour de France was won by like the 50th person to cross the finish line. That it's just sort of become industry standard, and yet it's a matter of like not should we do it, but how do we beat the test?
Yeah, and they went to great lengths to do so. Can I just remind people, if you've got any questions for us, or indeed if you would like to join us, you can tweet me. I've got the Twitter page open. I know a lot of our followers don't seem to like Twitter, but if you want to send a tweet message, you can do through Twitter to the DPR Jones. I don't know whether Twitter is case sensitive. If it is, then the is in capitals and DPR Jones is in lowercase. Alternatively, you can post questions, which hopefully Hogtie will pick up in the Vaughan Hangout, and you can post comments on the YouTube live video, which hopefully Concordance will pick up on. Or, as I say, you can send a request to the Magic Sandwich Show on Skype, and we can get you on there. Anyway, let's move on, because I've got a few more.
DPR, real quick.
Sure.
Do you ever watch Saturday Night Live? Is that something you've ever come across?
Do I ever watch?
Saturday Night Live. It's a TV show.
I think I've seen
SNL
clips of it on YouTube, but basically no.
There's an old 1980s or 90s era SNL where they have the all-drug Olympics, and it explores the idea of an Olympics where any drug is allowed. There's this one scene where the weightlifter is, I think it might have been Farley. He's on some sort of fish paralyzer, and his arms just literally like rip off his body, and blood spurting out the side, and the announcers are saying things like, he's not feeling anything right now, but tomorrow he's really going to feel that. Maybe that's something we should explore.
Well, if you can get a link to a video to it, I'm sure we'll play it. I've got a few videos that we will be playing shortly, but I want to carry on with the quiz. So I think, despite Hogtie's slight accuracy and then inaccuracy, I'm going to give that point to Concordance and not to the audience. One of the people in the audience got close, but I'm giving that one to Hogtie. So, second question. How many species of mosquito are there?
Where do you get these?
If I tell you where I get them from, you'll look them up in advance, and then it won't be so much fun. So, we've got people in the audience saying 8, 42,
oh God, no.
250.
So there's at least 3 zeros in the number. I can tell you that right now.
It's in the thousands, at least.
Yeah, it's going to be between 1 and 5,000.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah, but I'm not going to allow you to get away with such a degree of.
I think he means 1,000 to 5,000. Not one. He's not
I accept that.
Oh, it's some
I
number
accept that,
between.
but that's a huge gap
One
of
and another
4,000.
number.
I'm looking for him to sort of
even
narrow it down a little bit.
I'll go 2,500.
Okay.
Wow. I'm going to boot the ball on this. The first number that came to my head was 800.
Well, Hogtie, I tell you cannot win. Because Concordance has got it absolutely spot on. I don't know whether he had a quick, sneaky look at the internet. I don't think that he's the sort of person
that biologist
would cheat in such a way. But yeah, all right, absolutely spot on. No, I'm sorry, he's not right. You've got another chance.
I'm too low, aren't I? I'm too low.
You got another choice.
You should go with 25 and 1. 2,501.
Or 2,499.
199.
It's your choice. Which one you want to go for? Higher or lower?
I don't think it's quite 2,500. Non-interbreeding. I don't know. There's like 3 in the province I live in, and so I just multiply that by how big the world is. But there's probably more
thinking
mosquitoes.
Actually of the genus, like Aedes and Anopheles. Those are genus,
Anopheles.
not the species.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah,
then I don't know what I'm
that's-
talking
that's
about.
the
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
genus
80s.
one. There may be-
Anopheles, for example, which isn't
So
really
what
here.
would-
Thank goodness.
There may be like
we're getting
700
we're getting some
Anopheles
very,
species.
very high numbers from Quantum Overlord. I think you're just guessing now. Come on. No, but I'm terribly sorry. I was wrong. Hogtie, are you going to go higher or lower than 2,500?
Well, I'm being honest here. I was going to stick with 800. Is this
Okay,
way more
okay,
than that?
That's fine. That's fine. You lose again. The answer apparently is 3,500. And I misread my notes when I thought it was 2,500. But here's a chance. Here's a chance for you to make up a point on this question. Is it true or false that only the female mosquito bites? Or do both the male and female mosquito bite? I'll let you go first, Hogtie.
Wow. Boy, this is weird. I actually took this in school. It's not even like it's a random little factoid. The blood meal's for the eggs. It's only the females bite.
Concordance?
Yeah, I'm going to agree.
You're absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. So explain that to us, Hogtie. It's just they just do it to feed the eggs. So the male, what does the male live on?
Oh well, then what do they? The female doesn't nourish off of it either. Well, maybe she does. Yeah, I don't know, and that's why I'm sort of pausing. So I'm thinking, well, what the heck? They must eat something. Now they don't live for very long, but they consume quite a bit of energy while they're cruising about, spreading disease and so forth as they do. So I don't know. I mean, what do they eat?
As nymphs,
check the comments.
they eat. I mean, they eat in their other life stages, and that builds up enough of an energy resource to carry them through the brief period that they need to be reproductively active adults.
So they don't
The
eat as
exception
adults.
being the females. I mean, I actually don't know if the males eat. I don't know if the males eat. I know they don't take blood meals. And I know that because some of the viruses I've worked with in the past were spread through biting insects. And so you only have to knock out the females if you want to stop the chain of transmission. So what they can do is release sterile males back into the mosquito population. And it has the impact of preventing the females from producing fertile eggs, which breaks the cycle, right? And prevents them without having to interfere with their reproduction or with their occupation of a niche.
We could talk for hours about this, but there's so many things I'm going to squeeze into these 2 hours. I'm going to have to insist that we move on. So I think the scores at the moment are 2 to Concordance and 1 to Hogtie. So the next question is this. It's a multiple choice question, and this was a news item that came out this week. 1,500 audio cassette tapes were found in a hideout that was used by Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan. They contained a huge amount of material, but they also, amongst the material, contained music tapes. Okay? What was Obama's favourite music tape? Or
Duran Duran. Duran Duran. I want to be the first.
No.
It's got to be Duran Duran.
I'm giving you a multiple choice, okay? It's either Madonna, or it's Black Sabbath, or it is a basically unknown Jewish Algerian. Now let's have a look at what the audience have got to come up with on this one. We've got a Black Sabbath from Enoch. We've got a Rage Wit. We've got Madonna. So there we go. So there's your choice. Madonna, Black Sabbath, or an unknown Algerian Jew.
I'm just glad you didn't put Rush on the list. Because,
that would hurt my feelings, yeah.
I know. Well, the people, you either love Rush or you don't.
The national band of Canada.
That's right. You're not including Chilliwack, obviously. No, I think Madonna. I kind of always had... I haven't pegged as a Madonna fellow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
You've got Madonna concordance. Are you going with Madonna?
Yeah, because Duran Duran's not an option. I just assume.
No,
I mean, I looked
Duran
at the
Duran
guy and
is
I'm like,
not.
that's a Duranie right there.
No, it's not.
There's no emo. There's no like whatever. What is that?
Somebody-
Type O negative. Maybe.
Yeah, somebody-
He looks like a Type O negative guy.
Somebody, Hogtie, is asking in the chat, who is Rush? I think you perhaps need to explain.
Well, I'm noticing in the other chat already Rush Sucks is starting to show up.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't. Rush, real
How can
quick,
you
is
say
it
that?
a Canadian band that struck out and actually got world fame? They weren't just sort of like they're playing local things in Canada, and everybody, a lot of people in the world know them. And one of the few bands with a front man who's the bass player and lead singer, very rare. But there's just this, Rush is just that weird band that like, boy, people, oh, I love Rush, or people just go, man, they suck. That's, everything about them sucks. I don't know why.
Well, I'm actually in the middle. I've heard of them, but if you ask me to name one of their track songs or whatever, I wouldn't be able to do so. But if you told me, I'd probably say, oh yes, I've heard that one. What's their most famous hit?
Oof. Tom Sawyer.
Yeah, Tom
Limelight.
Sawyer's probably.
Yeah, okay. I've not heard of him. Anyway, what are we getting? We're getting a lot of people in the chat saying Jewish.
I'm going to go with Duran Duran, even if it's not on the
You can't.
list.
It's not on the list. and also,
Now he's just showboating.
No,
Every
neither
question
of
right
you.
so
Justin
far.
Bieber's not an option, huh?
neither
all right,
of you.
all right.
Neither of you are
I'll
going to
take
win.
Madonna too.
Yeah, okay. You've both lost, unfortunately. It was an unknown, or largely unknown Jewish Algerian whose name
Was the name of the band Duran
Enrico,
Duran?
No, it was Enrico Macias.
Huh.
You've got.
I got to Google that to make sure that's not Duran Duran's name.
That's double
All
points.
right, one more quiz question before we get to Ashley Madison, which, as I say, please, audience, pay attention because this is going to be fun. Last question for you. Discovered off the coast of Florida this week were 350 gold Spanish coins. What is their estimated worth? We do have a we do have a live audience, so you know there is a certain time limit for you to work this out.
5 million US. Where was it found?
Off the coast of Florida.
I'm going 5.
You just broke up, Concordance. You were going 5 what?
5,000,001.
$5,001,001. Okay.
I have no idea. I'm guessing probably more like 12 million.
Well, you can guess whatever you like. What's your answer?
Oh, 5,000,001. That's my official
5 million
guess.
and
but I'm
one.
guessing
Okay.
time.
Hogtie. 5 million and one. Higher or lower?
I said 5 million. 5 million and 2. Am I allowed to do that now?
You are allowed to do that, but unfortunately, it means that you lose because
come on.
the estimated
Oh wait,
value.
that means I win. I win.
The estimated value is $4.5 million.
I said 5 million. This is like.
Oh, come on. We'll have to
I said-
rewind this. Okay. Let's not fall out, gentlemen. We'll call it
I said 12.8 seconds. I said $5 million.
There's a few close guesses in the chat. We're going to call it a draw. I don't want you two to fall out. Right, let's get on. Let's get on to the serious issues of discussion. The first, as I say, relates to Ashley Madison and the hacking of the account and the disclosure of that information. And then we're going to come to a more scientific question in the second half or the last 30, 45 minutes of the show about what it means, or whether it means anything to ask the question, what happened before t equals 0. So, Ashley Madison, does someone want to explain that? Does everyone know about it? Should I give a brief explanation?
I can take a crack at it. I'm sure Concordance wants to pretend he's not familiar with it at all. What are you guys talking about?
My name does not appear on the list. I had it removed.
You had it removed. Apparently, you can pay the $20 fee. Well, I'll get to that in a second. So apparently, I mean, there are many different dating websites out there that are, you know, find your perfect mate and that sort of thing. Well, of course, increasingly on the internet, there's been you know, dating, but it's just hookup websites, right? And they kind of help you behind, you know, with some privacy and confidentiality, filter potential partners, and you can sort of choose, you know, if you're looking for a fetish person, for example, you're somebody who shares a fetish with you, you might look at these things. Well, Ashley Madison, strangely, has the distinction of actually announcing up front the sort of their catchline was "Life is short, have an affair." That it actually promoted itself. Not that this is the only thing that it was ever used for, but it actually was one of the few that promoted itself for being the place that you can set up discreet affairs. Again, not that any of the others, you know, even the free ones that are like cutesy little dating websites, of course, they were being used for affairs too. But this one actually promoted itself as a way of having an affair. Now, apparently, there were some free accounts, but you were better off to actually pay for an account, and it was a few $100s that took you for a year or something like that. It was actually sort of the upper tier of the sort of online sex dating websites. Strangely, they had weird things like if once you stopped paying, you no longer had your gold or premium access or whatever it is. So apparently your account wasn't searchable or whatever, but they kept your records on file, and then you could reactivate your account when you give them permission to use your credit card again. Or for a fee of $20, they would delete your account. And some people would suggest that's sort of extortion light. Like, yes, we're going to hold on to your information unless you pay us to delete it. Whereas every other service, you go to YouTube, you say, oh, delete my account, off it goes. But yeah, it's sort of famously that really attracted people. I guess it's more expensive, a little more upper class people that would do it, and a lot of married people. Now, in the last, I don't know when this had happened initially, but apparently they were hacked and a lot of the data was dumped out of it. And that's available as a plain text file. But the thing is 9.7 gigabytes. So even if you could download this thing, which you don't necessarily want to go hunting for it, because now there are a lot of sites that like include malware and stuff in it when you go to download it. But apparently this file is so mammoth that even if you could just get the raw 9.7 gigabytes of text, what are you going to do with it? Open it in WordPad? So there are people who've now written search engines that you can actually go through and they've parsed out fields in the database. And you can now go through and search to see whether your email address is in there, whether your spouse's email address is in there, and you can pull some of these records. To the great amusement and delight of people who are love to scoff at, like I think DPR may have an example for us.
I'm
Go
just
through the ones
biding my
everybody
time
knows
because
first.
your knowledge of the site is far greater than mine.
Yeah, suspiciously good.
Yeah,
Suspiciously good.
I don't have any issue, but I think that your assessment of the files that have been disclosed is a gross underestimate.
Well, there's been another segment that's been released. Sorry to say that.
So we're now up to 32 gigabytes, and of course that is a difficult thing to search through. But if it were possible to do so, and somebody with computer knowledge was able to do so, and there are many people around, and I happen to know one such person, then it would be possible to do a search to find out whether any particular person was on that site. Now, whilst I hold you in suspense, because obviously you know that I'm going to tell you about somebody who was on that site.
Well, let's go through the already released ones. Let's bore people and tease them a bit.
Oh, I'm not bothered about that. I'm going to play. I'm going to whet the appetite of people, and to also explain that you see this site is not like Match, which is a very, very popular site, and a site that I have no problem saying that I've got an account on Match. But I'm not looking for illicit affairs with married people and committing adultery.
But you wouldn't turn it away if it... Oh, is my mic?
Yes, it was on. And in fact, your allegation is untrue, and I can give you a specific example of exactly when I turned down an invitation on the basis that the person was married. But leave that aside. Let's have a look at a sort of like comic video that has come out in the last few days. It will take me a second to grab the screen capture. Let me just... yes.
As you do that, I'll let you know. So, yeah. Despite all my machinations about how, well, you don't necessarily want to go looking for this thing. There's some with adware, and it's not really easy to search through. For people who are participating in the Vaughn TV Live, whatever, the Vaughn feed, people are posting madly where you can get the file and how a person might go about.
So, there we go. Oh, hang on. Back to screen one. Hopefully, in a few seconds.
Oh, yes, she caught me mid-swig from my water bottle with the breath spray line.
The breath spray comment was pretty good.
Oh,
okay, so I don't know how many millions of people have got accounts with them, but I imagine there are an awful lot of people who are sweating very nervously, whether they may be MPs, judges, or whatever, but also people who publicly preach religion and who publicly preach that things like adultery are sinful. If such a person was to appear on that list, their hypocrisy is something that, I don't know, would you think that it would be justified to expose their hypocrisy? A little bit like Ted Haggard when he sort of like made statements about being against homosexuality and was found out to be doing pretty much everything that he said ought not to be done. Would that sort of exposure be of any interest to you?
No one's going to beat the Ted Haggard thing. I mean,
okay.
that guy he was just so over the top with it. It wasn't just like he had a little bit of gay sex. It was, wow, the crystal meth. And,
let's not go as high as Ted Haggard, but I want you to guess. And again, it's a bit of a quiz for you. I want you to guess who is on that list. And I will give you a clue. It's somebody that has been on this show.
Yeah, I'm sorry, YouTube's way ahead of you.
It's actually come up and
already guessed.
Vaughn has already put out the guess there as well too. Yeah.
Who?
Hamza sorts this. I don't know. There's T's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Sorts
now,
this.
I have to say, and in his defence, he has made a post on his Facebook channel, which is why I feel no problem in disclosing this information, because he accepts it's in the public domain. He accepts that his name is on that list. But in order to prevent him trying to take any action to have this video taken down, or to take any sort of legal action against me or the show, I think it's only fair that I read out what he has posted on his YouTube channel. On his Facebook channel. And again, I will do this by choosing a screen selection and hopefully getting it up. It'll just take me a few moments.
It'll take you a few moments to get it up.
Oh, please, Concordance. I thought better of you than that.
You shouldn't have.
Add screen capture. Okay, and... here we go. That should do it. Let's just make that a little bit bigger so people can see it. Can I make it bigger? Yeah.
Hey, Concordance, just mute your mic while he's saying all of this. Don't.
All right. And again, this
are we not doing phrasing? Is that not a thing we're saying?
This is in fairness to Hamza, and I'll come on to more details later. But this is what he says. Important announcement. It has come to my attention that my details are on the Ashley Madison data leak. This includes my name, address, and bank card details. This is an obvious case of fraud. My email address, this website doesn't verify emails and all relevant emails went to junk, can be found online. and so can my address, and it is linked to my business account, which is registered online. My date of birth is known from either previous lectures or Facebook. These types of online attacks are not uncommon. For example, in the past year, there have been multiple attempts to access my emails. The first transaction took place last October, and that is what the information that has been leaked says. He or somebody using similar details registered in October 2014. After my trip to Hajj pilgrimage, there have been subsequent transactions every month, not under the named site but a discrete label, which I believe is normal for such websites. I do not check my bank statements because I have paperless statements, and it's something that I haven't made into a habit. This is a serious matter of fraud or malice for which the bank and the police have been informed. They will now pursue the matter further as a formal crime. I am not ruling out anything at the moment, including the possibility of my phone being illegally hacked. Retrospectively speaking, it has shown signs of being hacked. It seems that the first transaction was made in Australia when I was there for lectures and courses, which again has been verified. It could be that someone knows me. Sorry, can I scroll down? Yeah, there we go. It could be that someone knows me, someone who hates me, or a malicious person who found out who I was. It could be one person or two. They could be working locally from abroad or both. At the moment, I have no idea, but it's clear that they probably didn't complete what they intended to do. So, as the data so far indicates, that there was not much activity and or dialogue that would have led to a meeting. Although I'm getting a few people to go through the data, and they haven't given me the full details yet, so this is speculative. Unfortunately, some people will have a field day. This is not my concern at all. There's already a lot of slander and hate online about me. I have my suspicions and unanswered questions too. Thank you. May God bless you all and shower you all with his guidance, mercy and love.
Right in the face.
There we go. Now, what is of interest, and the person that has looked into this has given me his permission to tell you who it is. It's probably someone that you're familiar with. It's theRationalizer. As I say, he is someone that is incredibly competent at anything to do with computers, and it would appear, Hamza may be right, maybe this is a case of fraud, but if it is a case of fraud, then not only did they use his correct credit card details, they also had the CCV security code on the back. They also had his real name and also his real address, which of course would never ever disclose. They also, as he says, took money out of his account for many months since October 14. And, you know, what is of interest is that the second tranche of material that is being disclosed by the hackers includes comments and whatever, which the first tranche didn't. The first tranche pretty much dealt only with credit card details and the like. So Hamza may well be right. It may well be some sort of terrible conspiracy, but if it is, it seems to be an incredibly effective one. And I'll leave it at that. But I don't know, what do you think? Have I been a terrible person for disclosing potential hypocrisy?
I certainly find it a little easier when it's something that's just rock solid. Like you can look at Josh Duggar, where he's accused of this sexual indiscretion, and then he's like, yeah, I did it, but here's my excuse. And then now, oh, here's this other sexual indiscretion. Oh, yeah, I did it, but it's always a little more comforting when you get, you know, the hypocrite himself actually admitting it, and then you get to listen to his bizarre excuses for why somehow it's not really his fault. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, twice since I've been appearing on what's all the deafening crackling noise? Somebody got a fire going. That was you. Oh, you're Chris. What? What are you doing?
You know, the utter lack of professionalism is what's holding the show back.
Damn, I lost my thread right there. Yeah, when they admit it is good. But, okay, so I've had it happen twice where someone's opened up an account in my name, you know, to put up gay porn or whatever else. You know, on one occasion it was... I don't make a big production out of it. When it happens, because you sort of feed the trolls. But yeah, where somebody opens up a channel in your name and then they put banners that are like gay porn or whatever else. These things happen. I'm sure that there are lots of trolls that like to sort of take down the more famous apologists by doing that sort of thing. And it's kind of childish, you know. So when you were first reading that, I thought, yeah, I could see that happening. By the way, there is a situation right now where I won't even say the guy's name because there is an apologist on YouTube, sort of in our little corner of YouTube, who's been exposed as well. His name is in that database, and his Gmail account is in there. So he would have been getting Gmail from Ashley Madison. His position is, no, it wasn't me. So you go, well, that's plausible.
Let's not skip past a really important point here, which is no one knew that this hack was going to happen. So no one is predicting in advance that this information is going to be disclosed. To what benefit is it to someone to create a phony account, which they then can't use because they don't have access to the emails or the whatever that would actually get them some benefit from this account? It doesn't add up to me that this would be fraud unless it were linked to an account that wasn't his. You know, contact details that weren't his.
I'm sorry. That's because where I was headed with it was that at least when you do it to a public figure on YouTube or something, you sort of make it out there. Like, hey, you can go look at, you know, somebody wants to make a phony DPR Jones channel just so they can be like, oh, look at how stupid this guy is. You know, that's the benefit, right? That you get that out of it. But in this case, all the trouble you would have had to go through to get his address and the credit card number, the information on the back of the credit card, and yeah, like you say, you would have had to have access to the email to be able to get some benefit out of it. So you're basically setting up a secret account for this apologist.
Also this.
People won't know that that's that person unless somehow some hackers at some point in the future take the thing down. And it does seem like a tremendous amount of legwork and, I don't know, going through the guy's garbage or something to get all that information for something that isn't going to pay off. That's really weird.
And if it was the case that somebody had done this in order at some future date to expose him, then you would imagine that the name on the account would be quite similar to Hamza Andreas Sortz's. I'm not telling you what the name is. I'm sure other people may know, but it wasn't. It was a name that really is not associated with him at all. So the idea that somebody is or has done this, which I have to accept is not impossible, does seem incredibly unlikely. And as I say, I don't want to stick necessarily on him because I genuinely suspect that in the next days or weeks, much more information will come out about it. And I don't like the man. I accept that, but I certainly don't want to criticise him for something that he hasn't done. My opinion is that he probably has done it, and I suspect that, as I say, that more evidence will come out. And I think it's important. And it's not just because I dislike him. It's not just because I think that his views are totally contradictory to mine. I think that the importance is the hypocrisy. If indeed he has been accepting money and donations through iEra and has been spending money in that sort of way, then that sort of hypocrisy is something that ought to be exposed. If indeed he actually did it. And who knows whether he did or not.
Yeah, I will leave it up in the air. Although I find it interesting, though, that I mean, yeah, the hypocrisy is the main thing. Like I imagine, DPR, well, would you approach it differently? Suppose there were other names in there, people who've been, you know, like, I mean, there's me in concordance, you know, Aaron's married. Like, what if one of our names would have been in there, some information linking us?
I think that if anyone had been publicly preaching that adultery was wrong, and was then using that site specifically to commit adultery, then I think that sort of hypocrisy should be exposed. Now, if you ask me in general terms, I think that what the hackers did was absolutely awful. And I think their disclosure of the information not only is illegal, it's just utterly immoral. Dishing out people's personal information, including their credit card details and whatever, is absolutely appalling. But the fact is, that information is now out in the public domain, and whether they like it or not, and I suspect there are a lot of people who know that, you know, when people go through it with a tooth comb, their names are going to come out and they're going to be put in an incredibly embarrassing position. I'm not comfortable with it. I think it's icky, but I don't think it's icky if people are publicly preaching a moral standard which they do not comply with themselves.
Well, one of the things that was talked about is the what do you call it, bystander damage for, you know, gay people, where being a homosexual is punishable by law. Revealing that they were looking is something where, you know, they can do an awful lot of damage. So mixed in with the sort of hoisting their own petard kind of thing, the getting their comeuppance is going to be a lot of collateral damage of people who are going to have their identities revealed. So yeah, I mean, net effect is almost certainly negative. What has been interesting, I don't know about positive, but interesting, is the way that prominent moralist Christians are dealing with the fact that their sort of seamy underbelly is being revealed. And I can post in a link. There's a Christian family of 4, you know, husband, wife, and 2 young kids, Sam and Nia. And they have on YouTube, they have 360,000 subscribers, and they're talking about giving them their own show. And sure enough, Sam's information shows up on Ashley Madison. And the way they dealt with it, and I think I pasted this into the chat on Skype, and I'll do the same on YouTube, is I think very typical for the way people are reacting. You know, I'm an imperfect person, we're struggling with this, and, you know, we've struggled with it a long time. It's funny, though, that it takes these kind of events to get people to admit to the struggles that they're having, or, you know, the challenges in their marriage, that they don't volunteer this kind of information unless their backs are against the wall and it's, you know, hurting them in some other way.
Exactly.
What do you guys think about that?
You know, we'll go back to Ted Haggard. He would never have come out. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that in the
obviously,
but you know, he wouldn't have done it unless he's been caught out. And as I say, I do want to repeat this because I think it is important. I think the hackers did something terrible, and simply by hacking, they've done something even more terrible by disclosing the information. I think that they ought to be prosecuted. Without any doubt whatsoever. But now the information is out, you can't put it back in. And if there are people who are being, in my view, totally hypocritical in what they are saying, then I think that however the information came to light, I think it's perfectly justifiable to expose that hypocrisy, particularly when they are people who are making money from public donations.
Yeah, I'm less bothered by the Christian who says that, like, well, look at how immoral the world's become, and look at how immoral atheists are. They have no moral compass and that sort of thing. And then they're caught out doing something sort of vanilla immoral, like getting on a website for dating or whatever else. And then they say, well, I'm not a perfect person. I roll my eyes and go, it's a little hypocritical, but recognizing, we all make mistakes, whatever. Yeah, I'm more concerned about things like the Josh Duggar thing, and these people that take positions where they're going to talk about how just homosexuals being is somehow bad for the world, and then now, the homosexuals want to have rights to marry, and like these are things that just ruin marriage, and and you scratch the surface and you find out that for all their preaching on sexual sin and how that is something that really needs our focus, and that they're actually doing things that are genuinely destructive. Whether it's molestations or I don't know, just all the other things that you're listing. It just that to me, I just have no sympathy for them, especially when they turn around and when they get caught and it's somebody else to blame. Either they lie about it when they get caught, or they say, yeah, I did it. But, like in the case of Josh Duggar, he's basically blaming the existence of the pornography industry for his indiscretions. Like, come on, take some responsibility.
Well, Duggar's even more offensive, I guess, because he's spent his career basically saying that, it's the gay that's causing problems with marriage all the time. He's looking to screw around on his wife, and that. They are held up as these perfect people. If they had been very honest about the show, if the show had been more about, normal people dealing with normal struggles, and, it would have made a much more interesting show, but it wouldn't have had the same connect where people want to associate these particular lifestyles. I'm a devout Christian, and therefore I'm kind of better than you. That's I think what has set them up for the big fall.
Well, then maybe you'll like their new show. Are you excited about the new show they're pitching?
Surely it's dead now. But this is about. I guess they already did something, right? They've already filmed something about sexual assault of minors. Yeah. Well, I don't know if they've actually filmed anything. It sounded like they're an idea they were pitching. But it was the Duggars providing. They wanted like a reality show of the Duggars providing counseling for sexual assault victims, sexual abuse victims, especially minors. And just
I know it makes your skin crawl. I've just received a tweet, and I'm very grateful for it, from John. Who says at least Kent Hovind has an alibi for not being on the list.
I was going to say, Keebley was making that comment when you were saying, well, who do you think it is? Keebley in the comments here had said, it could have been Eric Hovind, and he said, or stranger still if it would have been Kent Hovind. And I read that, I'm just puzzled by that. How would that work? He's still struggling with YouTube. Figuring out how YouTube works, let alone Ashley Madison.
Have you seen, and I know this is sort of like slight diversion from what we're talking about, but have you seen Kent Hovind's recent videos?
I've seen a couple of them. I was going to say that related.
Right? He must be making 8 a day. I don't know how many he's up to now, but it's a ridiculous number of videos. He must just sit there and just, like off the top of his head, just throw up a bunch of content.
But the content, I've only seen 2, and I've only sort of like skimmed through them because they're really quite
He's
boring.
got 87 videos. 87 videos. And he's only been on for a couple of days.
Like, come on. Compare that to Jason Burns in his heyday. That's nothing. That's nothing at all. But all it seems to be is, and this is one of the things that I thought would be curious. When he comes out of prison, what sort of attitude, what sort of position would he take? Would he adopt his son's new position about presuppositionalism and whatever? And it appears to me, and anyone correct me if I'm wrong, that he's not changed his position at all. He's still got those terribly chronic sort of like plastic sort of like sheets in which he's got the timeline. The only thing that seems to have changed is that he's added an extra 1,000 years until the end times. But we are in the end times. So he's not in any way said the Bible is wrong. He's not changed his position. It's just maybe to a degree the timescale has changed. I'm sorry, I just find it so boring. That's why, as I say, I only skimmed through a couple of them. And I'm certainly not watching 87 of them.
It's about an hour a day, because they're 30 to 40 minutes a piece, and he's putting about 2 of them out a day. I'm sorry, I don't have that kind of time.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect him to change his position on any of the issues, but yeah, his approach to apologetics. I mean, if you sort of put the periscope up and see what's happened to creationism, just in the YouTube environment alone, let alone the larger internet, you think he'd change his mind. 87, I don't know. I've seen a couple of them. I know I saw, because I'd seen a response to it, where the question came in, has the speed of light in a vacuum always been constant? And he says, well, that's kind of a physics thing. I'm not a real expert in physics, but I'm certain the speed of light has not been the same. That's perfectly obvious that the speed of light definitely has changed. And then he goes on to explain it, and it's just batshit crazy. But yeah, I mean, so he's sort of stuck with that. Well, scientists are wrong. Scientists shouldn't be trusted, et cetera, et cetera. And he's just pushing forward with it. The one thing in terms of getting out of jail and into the modern internet, into the YouTube form of social media, certainly one feature he has discovered and embraced is blocking, deleting comments and blocking. It's a militant anti-theist comments about how he's been blocked on it already. I bet you as soon as I mention that, there's going to be 7 or 8 people popping up with comments saying, yeah, I've been blocked too. He has mastered that skill, deleting and blocking.
Yeah, well, does anyone surprised, right? I mean, yeah. the one thing that his kind of ideology can't stand is criticism or questions. Has to be accepted on faith.
Sorry, scrutiny is what.
Yeah, absolutely.
What but I mean, it just. There was one, and I can't remember which one it was, and I'm not even going to post it in the description when this is subsequently posted, because it's just. It's such a waste of time. All he is doing is saying the Bible's true, and I will find some way, whatever way it is, I will find some way to justify that the Bible is true. So if the Bible talks of a talking donkey, then I will accept that that is true. And it's banal, it's boring, it's uninteresting, and totally unpersuasive, in my view.
But it inspired some of the best response videos, not the new ones, but the old ones, which were not that different. Truly, I think some of the best videos from the anti-creationist camp came out in response to Ken Hoban's videos. They're still a great source for inspiration for anyone trying to sort of refute creationist ideology.
That's
true. Can I do a channel shout out?
Please do, but can I just inform you what I'm about to do is bring into the conversation theRationalizer, who is a person that has been looking into the Ashley Madison information. So what will happen is when I bring him in, I'm going to have to sort of like rejig the screen captures. So bear with me whilst I do that, but do go on, Hogtie, as I try and do that.
Yeah, well, the Hovind material, those DVDs are so old now, but yeah, they sort of started to hit the market around when it really gets spread around in the early days of YouTube, and I think it really was such fertile ground for these really good pro science videos. Was debunking the crap that was in his videos, and just years worth of material that was in there. And now there's a whole generation of people like was it YouTube is 10 or how old is it now? But there were people now who are young adults who were children when that all started, when Thunderfoot was doing Why Do People Laugh at Creationists? We forget how quickly the time moves along. So now there are people that are rediscovering it. There's a channel, most people who watch the show would probably know who I'm talking about already. It's Logicked, and it's
Logicked. It's hilarious.
Logicked. Yeah, no, he claims he's Canadian. He's not. That's just a character he plays to gain credibility.
I don't believe you.
No,
He sounds very Canadian. I'm sorry.
You know what?
He sounds very Canadian.
I sent him a message once and he didn't reply to it, and I found it very rude. So I don't think he's Canadian.
He can't be Canadian then.
No, he can't be. But he started a series a little while ago on Kent Hovind, and it was his opening comment was like, "Isn't this stuff 10 years old?" And he's like, "Yeah, but I'm just discovering it, so I'm going to do it anyway." And it's been gold. It's really been good stuff.
Well, I think of like extant dodos, some of the best material, and that's almost all they did. And they haven't published or they haven't put anything on YouTube in 7 years.
Yeah.
But just, I mean, some of the takedowns are just classic.
Yeah. We forget how much time has passed. Like, Extant Dodo is absolutely excellent material, and yet
they just disappeared.
I think they faced a number of problems, because I did sort of like communicate with them whilst they were still doing the videos, and I think that they were both coming towards their final year at university. And getting their degrees, if not their PhDs, and I think that they sort of like obviously have moved on to better things, but they were absolutely fantastic, and what was great about them was that they were DMCA'd out of existence every single time, and then recreated themselves by serving counter notices, and it was a cycle that went on and on and on. But yes, if anyone is not familiar with Extant Dodo, I will put a link to their channel in the description, because they are wonderful videos, and as Concordant says, was it Hogtie? Nothing has changed in the arguments that Kent Hovind puts forward. Nothing has changed one jot, and their arguments are as valid now as they were, as you say, probably the best part of 10 years ago. But let's pause, because
let's not forget our good friend Don Exodus, right? I mean,
again,
his were also excellent,
absolutely superb. But we're being joined by theRationalizer. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good evening. How are you all doing?
Very well indeed.
Good.
I don't know how much of the last hour of the show that you managed to catch, but we were talking about Hamza and the fact that his details appear on the hacked and disclosed Ashley Madison site.
Yeah.
This is something that you've obviously looked into.
Yeah, I haven't listened to anything because I was in a kiddie arcade trying to get one of those 3 claw things to win some characters off the film Frozen, and I won 3 of them, but it must have cost me about 40 quid in total. So I'm kind of good yet rubbish at the same time.
Well, if I can just sort of like fill you in on the background, what I was explaining is that you had looked into, excuse me, you'd looked into the details that have been disclosed by those that have hacked into the Ashley Madison account, and you have found that Hamza Sortsis appears on that list.
Yeah.
And obviously you and I have chatted about that. He has given an explanation on his Facebook earlier today, which I have read out in full, because obviously he is not accepting that this was done by him. He seems, excuse me again, he seems to be coming up with various explanations about how this could have happened. I just want to ask you, if I may, this question. The explanations that he advances, such as my credit card was stolen, swiped, whatever, it was somebody else that did it, it was a malicious atheist that wanted to try and uncover it. Just in general, what are your views on that?
It's a crock of shit. No,
I have to say, for the sake of the lawyers, these are the expressions of the Rationalizer, not necessarily those of the Magic Sandwich Show. but I have to kind of agree. Go on. Why? Tell me why they're a crock of shit.
Well, I think first of all, I downloaded it, and first thing I did is I checked if there was anyone in there with my surname to see, you know, has my dad been up to anything and stuff like that, which I doubt because he hasn't got the internet savvy, I don't think, but I didn't find anyone. So then I moved on to extended family, and I found one member of my extended family on there, and that was funny. And then, so then after extended family, I moved on to my local postcode, then my city, and so on. And, you know, I was running out of people to look for, so I thought, oh, I'll try the IER a lot. And I went through each of them in turn. And then what I started off with was I searched through the credit card transactions, and up popped Mr. Sources. And I'm just looking at the files now on my screen. What we've got is £54 taken out on the 22nd of October 2014. And then on approximately the same date each month after that, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, they're £15 transactions. Now, I don't know when the database was hacked, but there is no July data in the transactions. So I suspect that they hacked it at the end of June. So I can assume from that well, the account certainly wasn't closed down before the middle of June. Now, in this account details, it says the last 4 digits of his credit card, his name, and his address. Now, the address given, I'm not going to bother reading it out, but it's...
Please do not read out his address.
No, I won't read out any, but all I'll say is he owns a company called Zortis Consulting Limited, and if you go to Company's House and look that up, that it was the same address, so his home address and his company address were the same. So I thought, well, you know, this is the correct Hamza sources. And the thing is for this to happen, obviously the information you need is you're going to need his home address, his postcode, the name on the card, which is Andreas Sources, because Hamza is his adopted, the name he has adopted. So they need his name, his card number, his expiry date, and the security code off the back. Majid Nawaz made an observation today that now banks put in that 2-step challenge, don't they? So if you go and buy something, it'll pop up something from your bank. And if you're on a strange IP address or something, so it might be fraud, it'll say enter your online banking password. So it's possible that happened. Obviously, we can't know that. And it was registered to an email address that Hamza used to use at the least. If you do a search on the web, there's a Yahoo address that he used to write a complaint about a Channel 4 program. So it was probably some program that had facts in it. He's written in and complained. So it's got his address as well, his email address. It's been in there for about 9 months-ish. Now, I've not had much time to look at all of the data because I've been trying to import it into MySQL. But my tip is don't use it on Windows because it is really, really rubbish and keeps crashing. So I've just installed Linux to do it. Right, so I'm literally now just looking at the data. Part of it's still importing. So I've pulled up his member details. So anyway, from the credit card details, we can establish that it's his card that's been used. Right. From that, we can get 2 things. There's a membership number, and there is an IP address. So first thing we can do, which I've just done now, I've copied the IP address that was used, and I've pasted it into a geolocation, an IP location, and it says that it's an IP address in Australia. Now, on his comment on his Facebook, he said that he's phoned his credit card company. No, he didn't say that. I've inferred that. He said that the transaction was made from Australia while he was in Australia. That's what he said, which I infer he got from a phone call or something to the support. But I've just checked, and that seems to be right. The IP address recorded is Australia. Let's see if there's anything else.
And just, again, to be fair to him, what he has posted on his Facebook page is, it seems that the first transaction was made in Australia when I was there for lectures and courses. It could have been somebody who knows me, somebody who hates me, or a malicious person who found out who I was. It could be one person or two. They could have been working locally, from abroad, or both.
Yeah. Right, so he's deleted that post now, by the way.
Has he?
Yeah, I don't know why. But first he put it up and there were comments saying basically we don't believe you, and, you know, painting out ridiculous scenarios, which someone did a screen grab. So, you know, you can still read them. They're a bit harsh, but, you know, I wouldn't have worried about them, really. Just what you'd expect. Those have been deleted. And now it would seem he's either made the post private or deleted it. So, I don't know. I don't know which it is, but you can't go and look at the post.
Well,
anyway,
what I will do for the out of caution is I'll take a screen cap of this, because I excuse me, I'm not going to refresh the page if this is gone, but I will certainly take a screen cap of it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So the first credit card transaction has got an IP address. The subsequent ones don't have an IP address because they're just like a recurring monthly service charge of £15. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of those. So £54 and then 8 times 15. What's that? 54. Oh, you know what? I can't be bothered to work it out because I don't care. Right. I lose interest in certain things very quickly. Now, 1 second I want to know how much it is. Next second it's too much effort, you know. So then
it's not insubstantial, and one of the things he says, and I would actually give him credit for this to a degree, that, you know, he doesn't check every single outgoing from his account. I think that is a perfectly plausible explanation. I wouldn't disagree with that. The other stuff he says, yeah, I probably would have an issue with, but not checking your statements every month.
I never ever check my statements, and in fact, as I looked at it, as I looked through it, you know, I thought I'd cancelled my account on this a year ago. You know, put my hands up. I should have been checking my statements, obviously. No, I don't check mine at all. I don't even look at my bank statement to see how much money's being paid off to my credit card. I don't even do that. I'll just give it about a week, look in my bank and go, oh, I'm skint already, and then accept. Right. So the other piece of information that this gives us is a user number, which there's nothing confidential in me giving that out, because it's just an incrementing integer number in a database. It's basically a profile number on the site, which is 999-04794. Now, when I do a query in the user database for that IP address, I get a user who signed up on the 22nd of the 10th, 2014, and in London, it's a different address from the one that he signed up with, that's on his credit card. It's another London address, but it's it's different from that one. There's a geolocation that the user has put in saying where they live. The headline is "Compassionate Male Seeks Friendship," and then the more detailed explanation says, "I long for a sincere friendship with the ability to connect physically and mentally. I would consider myself compassionate and someone who thinks a lot." Now, obviously the website is for having sex with people and illicit affairs and stuff. So their slogan is something like "Life is short, have an affair." So saying that you want to connect with someone physically on a site like this, it's obvious what you're talking about. Unfortunately, there's a lot of null information in there. So where it's got what are these tables? Stuff that would have been good, such as a security question and a security answer. That would have been quite telling, but there's nothing in there. I'd have liked to have. What's this? Maybe it was in another table. There's a column in one of the tables called something like "What turns me on," something. And I'd have liked to have seen that just for my own entertainment.
Well, it sounds pretty. That part of it sounds pretty bland. Sorry, he captioned himself as "compassionate male seeking emotional connection" or something like that. I mean, Duggars.
Yeah.
What's that? Duggars. Yeah, Duggars was similar to that, where you sort of. That's why I sort of at the start of the segment I kind of joked about you're just not going to beat the Ted Haggard thing, right? Like, what would be really bizarre is if you get, I mean, it's funny they write sort of these nicey, compassionate male looking for, like you're not going to find a Ted Haggard caliber. What do you want to do? Well, let's get rocked on crystal meth and blast the back door. Like, it's going to be nothing just over the top like that. I mean, Haggard is just not going to be beat for some time.
Right. Okay. So now what I'm doing is I've just combined the postcode that is used in the member profile, not the credit card, the member profile that they've entered themselves, along with the location that they've entered themselves, and it's a different address in London. I don't know if it's associated with Hamza at all at this point, so I'm going to pass that on to Hamza, just in case if he has been ripped off, then this might be the actual address of the person. So I'll just put it into Google and see what comes up.
Do I understand it that you've actually been in contact and communication with Hamza over this issue?
Yeah, because once I got over the laughing fit of actually realising that I found someone in there, and then the reality hits you of, well, hang on, this is going to actually be a big mess, and there's a wife involved and someone's family and stuff like that. And, you get past the surprise of finding someone and then start to really think, oh, it's going to screw up someone's life. And I've told a couple of people. I've told DPR stop spamming, and what's his name? Essence of Thought, who is either Peter or Ethel, depending on what time of day you catch him at, or her at. And and we kind of chatted it, and it's like, am I going to make a video about it? It's like, no, not really. So I don't mind you doing one. Oh, should I do one? And I was like, well, maybe you shouldn't. And there was a lot of umming and ahhing and back and forth and stuff. What I did do immediately was I wrote to the email account of that's on the registration and said, it's Pete, here's my number, you need to call me. I didn't get a call, so I left it a couple of days. Then I talked to you guys about it. And then I emailed Hamza on his work address at IERA. And I just basically said, cancel your credit card. And he wrote back, I'm not going to quote verbatim because, it's private. But the gist of it was, he said, well, why would I do that? I said, because you're in the Ashley Madison database. I think like that, laugh out loud, yeah, very funny. You're not serious.
Sorry, can you repeat that? He wrote back to say what?
He wrote
Why would
back,
I do that?
basically wrote back, laugh out loud, yeah, you're having a joke or something like that. If you know, all right then, what's my last 4 digits on my card? So I wrote back, said these are the last 4 digits on your card, and yes, I'm serious. And then I don't remember in detail what happened, but basically he realised I wasn't messing about, and we exchanged information. And I've been promising to give him more information as I can, but I've been having trouble with MySQL and stuff. And I'm actually in Wales at the moment, so other stuff's happening. But yeah, we've been chatting, and he said that he doesn't know. And I mean, I was honest and said, you know, I think you did it. No,
what was his? Don't reveal anything if you're uncomfortable doing so. But I'm guessing that he didn't admit it was him.
Oh, no, I'm not going to say what he said, but overall, he just generally said, you know, in my words, don't be fucking stupid, you knobhead. No, that's how I would have said what effectively he said. I'm not that stupid, you know, and stuff like this. So he basically said he wouldn't want to do anything like that. It's definitely not him. Someone ripped him off or something. But I just said to him, you know, I'm not the only person downloading this database. It's easily available. I tried to help him to get hold of the data himself at first, but he was out on the road in Ireland and he couldn't do certain things and what have you. And I think opening up a torrent connection from a hotel wasn't going to work. So we gave up on that. And what happened then? I said to him, well, a lot of people are going to download this, and people are going to look for people they've heard of. I mean, especially someone who does talks in a place where they segregate people by gender so that people don't, I don't know, fall over and accidentally have sex or something, whatever the reason is. You know, if someone who does that kind of thing, gives talks at that kind of place, they are going to look for someone like that in this kind of database. And I wrote and said, you really should give out a public statement. And first he said, yeah, I'll get to it by Monday. And I was like, well, because of the conversation we've been having, I said, well, I don't know that Stop Spamming definitely isn't going to make a video about this. He might make one. You know, I don't know if he's going to hold off till Monday. You know, basically, you really need to do one. And then we left it, and Stop Spamming said, no, I'm not going to do one. And but then, like the next day, I think it was, he released his statement. And it was at that point, actually, that I discovered his the first credit card payment was from Australia. See, I didn't know that at that point. So I'm literally only just properly looking at the data now. So I've only just done that geolocation thing. So whether he phoned his credit card company or what, I don't know. But I mean, that's basically the gist of it. I wrote to him and said, can you tell me what email addresses you've got? Because I don't recognise this email address. So, you know, in his post, he'd said something like, if I'd had an email, it might have gone to my spam or something like that. But he wrote back and said, no, that is my email address. It's an old one that I don't use anymore, and I've gone and had a look, and it is in there. So, I mean, I can definitely accept that it's an old email address because there's no letter H in it. It's like it's his Greek name. You know, it's based on Andreas sources. There's no Hamza hint in there at all. So yeah, I would say that's an old email address.
On balance, I do want to move on to another topic briefly for the rest of the show. But
Okay.
on balance, given the information that you've found, the explanations that he has given, what is your conclusion about whether Hamza was signed up, genuinely signed up under his own name to Ashley Madison?
Well, all I can say is whoever did it, they knew his home address. I haven't checked if the date of birth is correct or not, but that wouldn't really prove anything either way because it took me 10 seconds to find his date of birth on Google. It took me a few seconds to find his home address on Google. All of this stuff's public. The only thing that isn't public is his credit card details, and the things that there's people. I think people are seeing this as a bit of a two options kind of thing. Either he did it, or somebody did it and then set him up and hoped that the website would get hacked a year later, along with so many hundreds of thousands of other people, and making a really silly scenario. I mean, there is a more credible middle scenario that if someone else got hold of his credit card and signed him up, right, that they did it for the purpose of him getting caught by his wife, not by the world. That if you go to a site and choose the cheapest option, £15 a month, he's less likely to notice it. It could go on for quite some time, and then one day he might be sitting there with his wife and say, "You know what? What is this 15 quid that goes out every month for the last 3 years?" or something like that. And I don't know. Let's find out. And then they'd find out, and then there'd be a problem. You know, for a small amount, I can see it going for a long time. And the only trouble with that really is that if you wanted small amounts to build up over a long time, you wouldn't put in their real email address, because it would alert them to the problem immediately. Unless, of course, I don't know, they were hoping that his wife would see it straight away. But, you know, he was in Australia, so I don't know if she was there with him or not. I have no idea.
I'll tell you what, because as I say, I do want to spend the last 30 minutes on a slightly different topic, and I obviously would like you to stay with us, Rationalizer. But I'm going to make this offer to Hamza, who I suspect will probably be notified and subsequently watch this video. If you want to come on, Hamza, on the next show, we will have you on, and you can give your explanation as to what exactly happened, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. But if sorry, do finish off your point, but I do want to move on.
Yeah, move on. Yeah, I'm fine. I just thought I'd let you know that while we're sitting here, I've checked the address where Hamza actually lives based on his credit card, and the geolocation and the sign-up address of where the person was looking said that they live in order to find people local for sex, and it's an hour drive difference. So, in his defence, I must say that if I was going to go through all this trouble, I mean, you know, for a start, the username on the account was Andrew T14, so they weren't trying to say Hamza Tortoise so that the whole world can see it. Whoever opened the account didn't want the world to know who he was. And then putting in, you know, if I were to do this, yeah, I would put in a fake name. I would probably put in a Western sounding name because of people who don't like foreigners, you know. But then what would I do? I'd at least put somewhere close to my house to say I'll meet up for sex. I mean, my wife's nodding her head and saying no. You know, fair enough, he does travel around a lot. But it's an hour's drive from where he lives to where this address is that the person wants to base their radius from for having sex with people. You know, but then again, he does travel a lot as well. So, you know, he could have had sex with someone in Australia. That's a long way from his house as well. You know, I just thought I'd mention that it's like an hour drive.
Okay. I'm minded to leave this conversation here, but please, Rationalizer, I'd really like you to stay, because the last conversation that I want to sort of like address is something that I'm sure that you will have a view and an opinion on. And let me just give you a very, very quick background to it. I think it was 2 nights ago I was having a conversation with in a hangout with someone that was called Rev something, and I can't remember his name, and I apologize if
Revelation News, Rev News, or Revelation News.
Well, if I tell you what his argument was, you may know who it is. His argument or his question to me was, DPR, what happened before t equals 0? You know the boson hogtie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, it was by this stage, I think, about 6 o'clock in the morning for me. I didn't have to get up the next day, but I was tired, and I didn't really want to try and get into that sort of conversation at that time. But what I think he was asking, and again, if he wants to come on the show on a future show, love to have you on. But I think what he was saying is that the generally accepted theory is that T, being time, began at the moment of the Big Bang.
Yeah.
And by asking what happened before T equals 0 was effectively asking what happened before the Big Bang. Now, I've got issues with this, and let me explain, because I'd love to hear people's responses, but and don't trust me, I will be quick. I have no reason to justify and explain this, but I just think it is counterintuitive to think that T began at the Big Bang. I am not alone in this. There was a BBC documentary that was posted a few years ago, and I recently rewatched either on the BBC or on YouTube, and of maybe 20 scientists who are experts in this field, when they were asked, do you think there was something before the Big Bang, about 50% of them said yes. Now that means that they have to accept that T did not start at the Big Bang. And as I say, because I'm not a scientist, and because it's only an intuition that I have, I can't advance any argument that T began before the Big Bang. But what I think is interesting is that I don't see where this argument would get them, if it got them anywhere at all. Discuss.
Go on, Concordance can go first. So if anyone's going to know what happened in the past, it's a dinosaur.
Go on, Concordance. What are your thoughts?
I was going to use the analogy that if you're at the North Pole, you can't go any more north by definition. So it's not even, it doesn't even make sense. Now, you could sort of move up, but that's not north anymore. As you get closer and closer to the North Pole, you sort of narrow the field a little bit. That's why, I mean, it doesn't make sense to say sort of what comes before T equals 0.
Yeah, no, I accept that. I accept that concordance. Mm-hmm. But it seems to be generally accepted amongst many physicists that T began at the Big Bang. What I'm questioning is whether T actually did begin at the Big Bang, or was there something before the Big Bang? Was there time before the Big Bang?
So space and time are rolled up together, right? They're part of the same thing. So in addition to saying sort of what T equals 0 would look like, you have to acknowledge that there would be no space for anything to occur in. Whether that helps us or not, you're talking to a biologist, so I don't know.
Okay, hogtie. I mean, I accept accept what you say, Concordance, because that's pretty much what my response was, and I don't have a problem saying I don't know, and I think it's an interesting question. It's a question that we may never be able to answer, but I've got no problem with that. What I have a problem with is people who tell me that they do know with certainty exactly what was happening before T equals 0. That's the problem I kind of have.
I mean, the argument basically goes, I don't know the answer to X, therefore, and then there's a blank space and it says, please insert religious belief of your choice. And that it amounts to no more than that, really. I mean, I read, I'm going to have a brain blank now and forget his name, but Cosmologist and Echoes of Time is the name of his book. But anyway, from what I could gather from his book was that he talks about how all matter eventually will decay into energy. When it becomes energy, it travels at the speed of light. Anything that travels at the speed of light basically loses the dimension it's travelling in. So therefore, because everything's travelling at the speed of light, the size of space becomes infinitely small, which is effectively a Big Bang. And then from a very high amount of energy in a small place, you get a Big Bang, and it expands just to matter again, but decays away, and then forms another Big Bang. Cycles of time, he called it. And no, the question is, it's like, well, is the point it expands the beginning of time? Because we know for a fact that weird stuff happens with time as you go to the speed of light. Those like neutrinos, is it, that are in the upper atmosphere, they're created in the upper atmosphere, but they've got a lifetime so short that they wouldn't get down to Earth, except for the fact that they're travelling so close to the speed of light, it dilutes their time from our point of view, and therefore they do reach the Earth. When you smash something around in the Large Hadron Collider, it will go round the tube more times as it decays, because it's going so close to the speed of light. To us, its time has dilated. From its point of view, the Large Hadron Collider is probably about 30 meters in circumference or something. All weird stuff happens with the size of space and the amount and the length of time. So if everything's going at the speed of light and you've got no space and no time, then it becomes infinitely small and explodes. Well, you'd say, yeah, time started there. But once it's expanded and then eventually decays into energy, and then there's no space or time again, well, did time start then? Or did time start at the other one? And can they really be considered causal or not? And, you know, I kind of see it as like a wheel endlessly spinning in space. You know, did it start to spin, or has it always been spinning? And just because this spoke constantly passes this one point, it doesn't need to have endlessly rotated to get there. It just needs to be rotating at the moment, and you know, obviously it's very confusing. We don't know the answer to it, and it is an interesting question, but interesting questions aren't answers. And the idea that what you need is everything has a cause, and the only therefore something without a cause must have started off the chain reaction, and it must be conscious because it must have not been doing it and then decided to do it. But this doesn't work, because this cause is always this intelligent, all-powerful thing that's eternal. And the question no one can ever answer for me is, how long did God wait before he decided to make the universe? Does that question even make sense? Because if he's existed for eternity, how long did he wait? You know, he would never get to the point where he created the universe. And when they say, oh, but there's no kind of, it's a timeless realm. Well, my understanding of free will is you have to have the ability to do a decision to make, different choices to choose from, and the ability to perform those different choices. If you haven't got those, you haven't got free will. So if it's timeless, how did God decide to make the universe and then actually have the free will section and then action the decision? There's a point between thinking of it and deciding to do it.
I have to say, and I'm sorry, I stepped away from the computer for a couple of minutes there, but I have to say that the question of free will is one that I used to think was really boring, and now I find incredibly interesting. And I think that, particularly if you can get someone, an expert in this field, would be an interesting topic for a discussion. But I have to pause you there because we have someone that wants to join us. And again, this is going to take me a couple of seconds to do this. And I'm going to have to rejig the video. Hopefully Cliff Jumper will be joining us. We've got, I think, probably 15 minutes of the 2 hours left to go. So let's see if I can sort this out. And I know Cliff Jumper wanted to talk about the issue of time and what happened before time. If indeed that question makes sense, I don't know. But let me rejig a few things here. Just bear with me.
You rejig? I mean, the argument generally goes that something big and powerful has to have done it. The universe is really big. It's got to have been one, because Occam's razor makes that more simple than two. And there might have been an argument if there were two gods. That makes more sense if there were two, because it explains why bits of the universe are crap and bits are really good. But if you actually look at nature and things around you, you don't find that one giant Egyptian made pyramids, or one giant ant come and chop down some foliage in the jungle. What you find is thousands of Egyptians all work together to make something big. Thousands of small ants nibbled away at the foliage to kill it all around their home. What you get is lots of small, semi-powerful things combining in effort to achieve something bigger. And in many cases where you've got things like water causing damage to things over a long period of time and stuff like this, or mountains being pushed up by convections under the crust, what you've got is lots and lots of small particles all moving in a pattern with no purpose whatsoever, no free will, no choice. They just happen to be doing something due to the environment they're in. It's causing much, much bigger things to happen. So to me, this Kalama argument is just the opposite of absolutely everything we observe in reality.
If you're talking about the Kalama argument, I think there was just so many things wrong with it. I think premise 1 is incorrect, inaccurate. I think premise 2 is, and any attempt to reach the conclusion of Kalam to get you to your personal individual God takes steps that just simply aren't possible. But anyway, let's pause there, because we're joined by Cliff Jumper, who wanted to, I think, raise a topic that we were discussing before. Cliff Jumper, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. How are you doing?
All good, thank you.
Am I coming through clearly?
Perfectly clearly, yes.
Excellent. I actually spent a fair amount of time sort of thinking about the something from nothing, because that's really the time, t equals 0, I think it was before then.
No, I disagree. Let me pause you there. For this reason, and I'm terribly sorry to interrupt you so quickly. Something coming from nothing is what I assume you're sort of like referring to is the Lawrence Krauss video and lecture that he's done many times. And whilst I accept that I cannot disprove anything that he's saying because I just simply don't have the knowledge or the understanding, I don't think that his lecture says or implies that time started at the moment of creation. If you think I'm wrong about that, please tell me.
It's not so much that. It's more normally like the Revelation News kind of thing. The Christian point of view is, okay, how can you explain something coming from nothing? Because that's what what came before the Big Bang is usually asking. You can't answer that, therefore I can import God into that, God of the gaps. argument. You know, that tends to be the way that it goes from that point perspective. The difficulty is it's very difficult to know if the Big Bang originally, you know, was something that happened at all. There are suggestions that maybe we have had an ever-existing universe. But not only that, I came up with this idea myself, and I'm sure other people have. I think it's the B theory of time, but I'm not really that familiar with it. And the idea is that if you imagine 0 is a universe existing, 0 is a universe not existing, and 1 is a universe existing, and you go back one step, so that's a base 2 universe. If you go back to a base 1, then you effectively have there's no difference between the past, the present, and the future. They all exist at the same point, and so maybe one can precede the other. You know, it's a kind of weird thought. The other one is that there are physicists who have come up with ideas. You know, they've mathematically proven that you can get what came before the Big Bang. You can have one of the ideas is when, oh gosh, I'm blanking. The idea of a sort of multiverse, the idea is that the material in a black hole being sucked into a black hole has got to go somewhere. It can't just go into nothing. It can't go into a singularity to be 0. It has to go somewhere. So the idea is that it gets spewed into another universe. And who's to say that our universe isn't the construct, isn't made out of the material from a previous universe? A black hole has had material sucked into it, it's got to go somewhere, and it bursts out into what we call the Big Bang. And not only that, of course, you could theorize that it's like a great big donut, that, you know, one universe creates another universe, creates another universe, creates another universe, creates our universe.
I think these are all very interesting comments, and they're the types of things that I've thought about as well. But because I'm totally illiterate scientifically on these issues, it's very difficult for me to advance any argument that would be anything other than an appeal to authority. But when I'm told by very eminent scientists that there may be a multiverse, how can I say no, that's not true, apart from using my sort of like limited intuition? I don't know. All these possibilities seem to be perfectly acceptable possibilities, and I can't disprove them. I don't know what the truth is, and I have no problem in saying I do not know what the truth is. But we're joined by QuantumOverlord, who also wanted to kick into this conversation. Quantum, welcome to the show.
Hello, is this audible?
It is perfectly audible, yeah.
Oh, nice to hear from you. So it's an interesting discussion now. I can try and say some of the things I've heard about it. My undergraduate degree is in physics, but amazingly I managed to get through the entirety of it without doing any cosmology. However, the thing that the other guy said, Rationalizer said about light and time, it does ring true. One of the interesting things to know is that if you could look at things from a photon's perspective, you can't. But if you could, then the universe would appear to end in an instant because of the time dilation effect. So, bizarrely, from our perspective, light travels at the speed of light, but from the light's perspective itself, it travels across the whole universe in an infinitely instantaneous amount of time. So, one interesting.
Whoa! Hang on. You're going to have to explain that to me, because so far as I understand, even a photon is restricted to a certain speed. and that speed is not going to allow it to get across the entirety of the universe instantaneously. Or am I misunderstanding something?
See, this is the interesting thing, right? So that's true from any normal reference frame. So from any standard reference frame, light always travels at c, which is 3 times 10 to the 8 meters per second. So it's the old thing. If you could get a car that travels close to the speed of light and turn on the headlights, what would happen? Now, it doesn't matter how fast you are traveling. If someone shoots a laser at you, it doesn't matter how fast you are traveling away from the laser will always seem to come at you at the speed of light. And there seems to be a contradiction here, right? So how can it be that the laser seems to come at me from the speed of light standing still, yet someone going really, really fast away from the laser also appears to go at the speed of light? And the way to solve that contradiction is that if light stays constant, it actually has to be the time that changes. So essentially, the faster you go, from your perspective, the faster the rest of the universe passes by you. So if you were to go very close to the speed of light, let's say you're on a spaceship traveling away from Earth at 99% of the speed of light, it would appear that, let's say in an hour, the Earth could have aged by 1 billion years because you're traveling close to the speed of light. So you can't ever get to the speed of light, but if you could ever get to the speed of light, the entire universe would pass you by in an instantaneous amount of time. So while from any normal reference frame, light always travels at the speed of light. From light's reference frame itself, if such a thing could exist, which it can't because there is no reference frame from the point of view of light. But let's assume that you had a vehicle that could go at the speed of light. It would appear from your perspective that you would be everywhere in the universe simultaneously. And this is also another thing that people get wrong quite a lot. So you often hear that it would take, let's say, there's a star system 20 light years away, and you often hear people say even if you travel at the speed of light, it would take 20 years. That's actually not quite true because of this time dilation effect. In fact, if you went at something like 99.99999% of the speed of light, it would actually only take you a matter of hours or days or whatever. So there's this effect here is called special relativity. But there's also another one. Not just special relativity. There's also another one. That's how going faster.
Relativity. When you were saying that, it reminded me of the fact that I'd heard about the universe being so many billion light years across, which is bigger than 13.7 doubled. And I remember asking, how can the universe be bigger than a radius of 13.7 billion light years if it's only that old? And apparently there's light that might never reach us and stuff because relatively at certain points the universe is expanding away from other points faster than the speed of light. And it's not that things can't move faster than the speed of light, it's that things can't move through space faster than the speed of light. And that
please help me out, because I think the explanation I got, and I think it was from Andromeda's wake, is that space is expanding as well.
Okay, but this is
we're talking about a very different phenomenon. I'm going to force a word in edgewise. I'm so quantum. You're missing. This is quantum.
I think
quantum.
Quantum.
Go ahead, quantum.
Yeah, but please
trying to break it
to respond.
Yeah, DPR was asking about how can something travel like the photon itself traveling at the speed of light. When you say, well, it's everywhere at once, or the universe would pass by instantaneously, the very simple point that you're not highlighting that we're forgetting here. It's not just the nature of time changing; it's the contraction of space, right? So DPR, you might be familiar with this situation of like some radiation that comes into the upper atmosphere causes some particles to decay, and these particles come shooting down towards the Earth. But the products of this decay, these things last for split seconds, nanoseconds. They hardly have any time at all. And traveling at the speed they're traveling at, there's no way they could make them down to the surface of the Earth. They wouldn't make it a tenth of the way down to the surface of the Earth. But they do make it down to the surface of the Earth because when you're traveling at relativistic speeds, time slows down, but also distance shortens. So subjectively, for that particle coming from the top of the atmosphere down to the Earth at the bottom of the atmosphere, there's actually less distance for it to cover. So in its very, very short lifespan, it's able to cover its relativistically short distance. Of course, from our perspective, we're looking up at this and see, wow, there's a lot of atmosphere. There's a lot of distance to cover for these things to come down, and yet they do make it here. That's because for something traveling as fast as it is, distance in the direction of travel. Other distances doesn't change, but distance in the direction of travel actually sort of pinches and compresses shorter. So what this means is that if you were, say, traveling from Earth to Jupiter, and you say, well, how long would it take to get if we were doing it at 100 kilometers per hour? Well, that's going to take a long time. But if you say, well, how much is it going to take to do it at 99% the speed of light? Well, you can figure out how much time it would take at 99% the speed of light for somebody standing on the Earth watching you fly away at this thing. And then when you go to calculate that same thing from your perspective in the rocket, you have to keep in mind that there's going to be a foreshortening of that distance. That once you start traveling at 99% the speed of light, Jupiter is literally closer because space will be squished in that dimension. And at 99.9% and 99.99%, the more nines you add onto that, the more it gets squished. In theory, this is where you get the mathematical singularity, is that once you try to calculate what the universe looks like for something that's moving at the speed of light, the shortening of distance actually reduces right down to zero. So for a photon leaving the sun at this moment, it takes, from our point of view, it's going to take that photon 8.5 minutes to get from the sun to our front lawn. From our point of view, 8.5 minutes by our stopwatch, crossing the 93 million miles that we observe between, of that photon's paths. But for the photon itself, the distance between the distance between the sun and your front lawn is literally 0 millimeters. So the photon is simultaneously at the surface of the sun and halfway to your front lawn and on your front lawn simultaneously, because it's traveling literally at the speed of light.
Okay, I'm quite prepared to put my hands up now, literally, and say, and no, with no disrespect, whoever's typing, can they just mute their mic? Thanks. I don't understand, and I have no problem in saying I don't understand. I am quite prepared to appeal to your authority, and this is not, as many religious people will say, I am appealing to a fallacy. No, I'm appealing to people who know a damn sight more than I do, and can explain things a lot better than I can do. And the one thing that I am able to do is to actually test out whether what they're saying is correct or not. So it's not a false, it's not a fallacy, but it's something, and it really, really irritates me. And I have tried to understand, but I can't understand it, and it so frustrates me. In much the same way, and I know that theRationalizer has been helping me out recently with website design, and again, that is something that is just, I can't get my head around it. I don't understand what I could do in 40 hours. He can probably do in 4 minutes. And it irritates me, but I guess maybe there are some things that I can do that some of you might not be able to do. I don't know. That might sound a little bit arrogant, but I don't understand. I don't understand it. I can't get my head around it, and it so frustrates me.
The whole what happened before
CPR over the years is all of these things that he doesn't know, and I've only ever heard him say, "I don't know this, I don't know that." And my working hypothesis at the moment is that he's an idiot.
I think that is a perfectly acceptable conclusion, based on the evidence. Yes, I fully accept that. Until you need until you need me in court, then you might think otherwise.
It's a challenge. I claim to understand what the scientists and theorists will say about these things, but I have to admit, for many of these things, to not really sort of psychologically embrace them. They're just too hard for your brain to really grasp. So even like going back to the original question about what happened before t=0. Well, look, when they make a movie, the actual running the feature-length movie, there's like a time code, like for the final edited version, and it starts at 0, and then there's the credits, and then things happen, and then eventually the end credits, and then the movie's over. And our experience with time is things like, well, we're going to go see this movie, and it starts at 8 p.m. So at our 8 p.m. on my watch, that's t = 0 for the universe of this movie that starts. So we got to get there a little bit early. We got to get our tickets. We got to buy our popcorn. We got to go to the bathroom. Whatever. You got to sit down, get your seats, get yourself comfortable, and then now the screen lights up, and now it's t = 0, and we can watch this movie unfold in front of us. The universe of this movie is created for us.
But you're accepting there,
Sorry?
Barry, but by that analogy, you're accepting that T does not begin at 8:30. T begins before. And what I'm asking is it possible that T begins before the Big Bang? And
Yeah, to be my point, yes.
That's a valid question. But
can I make a...
Can I? Of course.
But that's to be my point. You're going to go where?
No,
that's to be my point. What I'm doing is I'm saying we have these familiar experiences in life,
Yes.
and we try to extend them to things like, well, what about the actual universe? Not just the universe of the movie I'm watching, but the actual universe. And you try to think about, okay, well, when did it start? Well, what was going on before it started? And the very notion that things like gravity is a function of matter itself. There wouldn't be such a thing as gravity if there weren't matter. Well, there wouldn't even be such a thing as space if there weren't matter. If there weren't matter, well, what would the universe be? Well, it would be empty. No, it wouldn't be empty. It wouldn't be. Well, what about time? Well, the idea that there couldn't be time.
I've got to challenge you on that. Why could there not be a universe with space but without matter?
I don't know. I don't understand it. That's my point. I understand what a movie theater is that's empty.
We're in
I
agreement.
understand a movie theater that's empty and fills up. Right? And I understand a movie that starts. But I don't understand a universe that's empty and fills up.
I will give you.
I don't get it.
I will give you all an opportunity to make a final statement. But I am going to bring it to a close because I don't like to want. I don't want to allow these shows to overrun over 2 hours, and this one is now slipping over 2 hours. And I also want to make 2 quick announcements. The first is a question to you. It's kind of a quiz thing. I should have asked it before. In fact, I might have done. Did I? How many? What was the percentage of women on Ashley Madison? Did I ask you that before?
It didn't come up, but
it's a tiny amount now. I mean, there's probably
go on. You say tiny. Go on. How much?
Well, I haven't checked it.
I know you haven't. This is why it's a quiz question. What do you think it is? No, you're not allowed to cheat.
No,
you're cheating. You're cheating. Okay, Cliff Jumper. What percentage?
I'm going to have a guess at 8%.
8. Hog tie.
Mm-hmm.
Your guess?
I got to split my answer. It's 10% women, but if you want to factor it out to women seeking men, it's only 5%.
Okay. You kind of cheated there. Anyway, yes, okay, you're right.
I need to.
All right. The other thing that I did want to announce before we go to closing statements is that Hogtie, myself, Ozzy, have decided that we will actually be opening a Patreon account for the Magic Sandwich Show, but it will be one that is done with a difference, so to speak. I'm not entirely sure what percentage, but it will be a significant percentage of any Patreon donations will actually be going to MSF, Doctors Without Borders. At a minimum, it will be 50% of any donations that we receive. I suspect it's likely to be slightly higher because the only thing that we can really justify charging for is the extra Skype account so that we can get more than one person in, or 1 or 2 people in the call. And oh shit, hang on a second, I've just done something really bad. Let's try
If
that.
DPR doesn't understand this relativity of time and space, shall we tell him about the hole in the barn parrot?
You might still be able to see me. I can't see you at the moment because I've done something wrong. There we go. Yes, I can. We might have to pay for a few quid for Skype and XSplit, but apart from that, our Patreon account is going to be donating the majority of the money to Doctors Without Borders. There we go. More information should be available by the time we do the next show. But that said, the next show, I think, is going to be sometime when I'm in America. So we might, I don't know, we might miss a show. But I suspect that I will be doing something live with Coctopus Prime, probably Dark Matter 2525, probably Live Life, probably Aaron, and probably Matt Dillahunty during the course of the 2 weeks down there. But I don't think that there's going to be an MSF 24-hour event. There we go. So those are the announcements that I have to make. Please don't bother going to our Patreon page at the moment because it is just not complete and we haven't done anything significant with it. But just to give you a heads up that that's what's going to happen. Anyway, let's bring it to a close. I think there've been a lot of interesting topics. I'll let everyone come up with whatever they want to in their final comments. But I will pipe down if I can get my mouse from underneath my GOG. There we go.
Pick someone. Pick someone.
Okay, let's start with Cliff Jumper. Cliff Jumper.
Well, two things. The first one is based upon the last one. We are victims of linear time. We almost don't have an idea of what happened before we were born, let alone what happened before the Big Bang. And the second one on the Madison thing, I suspect there's going to be an awful lot of evangelist types saying, Satan made me do it, but Jesus has forgiven me.
I suspect that may be true. Quantum.
So that long diatribe wasn't in vain, so I'll very briefly say what I was getting at. That all that was special relativity, but there's also general relativity, which means that gravity can also affect time. So your time actually runs slower if you're orbiting a black hole. So an interesting theory based on this is that our universe is actually inside the singularity of a 5-dimensional black hole, which is quite interesting.
It's absolutely fascinating, but unfortunately goes straight over the top of my head. Maybe for a future show, we'll get someone else back on and you as well and discuss it. Rationalizer, do you think we're bad people for exposing potentially the misbehaviour of Hamza Sortsis, or do you think it's justified?
Well, no, because the perfect state that he believes should be enacted throughout the world would stone people to death for adultery. Now, if you take into account that if we assume that he did do this and actually had an adulterous encounter, it wouldn't matter if his wife forgave him or the fact that he had children that would miss him. He would still be stoned to death, and ultimately that would take away her husband and their children's father, and that's a system that I think is disgusting. So someone who promotes that kind of system, if they're on a database that's purpose is for people to get together and have adulterous affairs, then it's definitely something that should be exposed. To be quite honest, I would like it if he was innocent and I could have a dig around in his data and we found out who was guilty, because that would be quite surprising and therefore exciting. And I like things that are unexpected. Unfortunately, what I expect is that it really was him. At some point now, he's got over his defensive stage. He'll confess to his wife. In the next few days, he'll probably come out and say that he repents. And then just about every Muslim that loves him will say only Allah can judge him on the day of judgment. And then life will move on as normal. But he'll lose debates whenever the subject of morality comes up.
I mean, that's
You know,
one of the
there
thing, that's one of the things that strikes me. And sorry, Hogtie, I will come to you very shortly. I think you're absolutely right. I think that those who support him will find some justification to forgive him and whatever. And I suspect that the amount of donations that he and his organisation receives every year will probably not change one jot. It's almost like these people are untouchable. And as you say, whatever excuse they come up with, oh, well, you know what, yeah, okay, maybe I did wrong. I don't think he will ever admit that he did wrong. But if he did, it's sort of like, you know, like so many people, I did wrong, but I've found forgiveness and I've been forgiven. And everything just carries on as normal. I find it incredibly irritating. Anyway, I've got to stop ranting.
Scandal to me is very uninteresting. If he did it, that just not only would I not be excited about it, I don't actually care because what he does is up to him, you know, and between him and his family. Now, if it turned out he didn't do it, and we could catch someone who had done some kind of credit card fraud when they thought they was going to get away with it, that's well exciting. I'd love that. I prefer the scenario where he didn't do it, but you know, I'll just wait for the evidence. I won't have a belief until the evidence is in.
Hogtie.
Rationalizer likes
Sure.
the unexpected, and I think the Spanish Inquisition, they're unexpected too. The chief weapon is surprise. Don't you know?
Very nice.
I've got to sum this up, please. Hogtie, your final comments.
Yeah. And so we find out, let's say he's not guilty. Let's say we actually find somebody who did do this fraud. How hard are we going to work to bury that we ever talked about this on the show? So here we are sitting around going, well, maybe he did it. It kind of looks like he did it. Let's take a look at some of the details. That was hypothetical or rhetorical, but you want to answer it, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm hearing an echo. That's my own voice I'm arguing with now. That was awesome. Yeah, here we are saying, well, maybe he did it. Well, this is what the evidence looks like. I suppose he did. Well, he says he doesn't, so let's leave room open for that. Hey, we'll have him on and ask him if he did it, if he wants to, comes up with a different story. You know what? If it ever comes out that he's got some sort of plausible alibi type thing where it couldn't have been him because of whatever, we never do find out who did it. We'll do a show and we'll say, yeah, guess what? When episode 114, we talked about this. Turns out, looks like it wasn't him. Even better, if Rationalizer's fantasy comes true here and it turns out that it was somebody else demonstrably who did it, we are going to be like, wow, guess what happened? And boy, we made a mistake because we shouldn't have said that about him, but we are going to spread the word twice as hard that he didn't do it. I say this in contrast with what's been continuing to go on vis-a-vis, if I can use that phrase, Planned Parenthood and STEM Express and everything else that's been going on lately with those guys. You know, DPR said earlier in this episode that I don't really like Hamza. I don't know, whatever the history is, they're kind of a jerk, whatever, I don't know. But he says, I don't really like him. But that's not why, it sort of gives you a little bit of delight in this. But not liking somebody or not approving of their specific actions isn't good cause to embark on false accusation, false allegation, especially criminal things. And we're taking a lot of care to make sure we're not doing that. And if it turns out that the guy's not guilty, well, you just watch. You just watch how much we'll jump on it. But when it comes to Planned Parenthood, those folks will just say, yeah, it looks like Planned Parenthood is basically, bagging up women and dragging them in a van, cutting up baby parts and selling them. And they're not going to look at the truth. The truth will never come out about Planned Parenthood. Not ever from the evangelical Christians. Ever, ever, never. Last note real quick. We were talking about earlier in the show that about some of these things have happened, like the old Kent Hovind videos and stuff. The Kitzmiller v. Dover trial, long time ago, 10 years, something like that, quite a while ago. So old now that there are people who are watching her. Sorry?
2005.
It was 10 years ago, yeah. So Fiona Robertson is going to be hosting. She has a little journal club thing that she does in her channel every Wednesday or sometimes every second Wednesday. On Wednesday, the 2nd of September, she will be, I believe, Cliff Jumper is going to be there, probably Concordance, definitely me, will be blowing the dust off of what happened in that trial, why it's interesting, why it's influential, why it's important. If you don't know all the details or you're young enough that you just weren't engaged when that stuff happened, tune in to Fiona Robertson's channel because we're gonna blow the dust off that crazy story.
Okay, on that bombshell, and let me just finish on one of the points that you sort of like touched upon, Hogtie, if I may. If it is the case that the accusations that have been suggested against Hamza turn out to be incorrect, I will make a public apology on this show, and I'll invite everyone that's been involved in this conversation to do likewise. Okay, I cannot be fairer than that. Let's end it at that.
I'm not apologising. I haven't done anything wrong. Apologise on your own, mate. Leave me out of it.
Okay, well, you don't need to apologise.
Yourself? Well, all I can say is that the hackers that did it have said that if Addis and Mashley don't take their site down within so-and-so deadline that I don't know of, they're going to release private messages between members and the profile images that they captured as well. So whoever has been linked to that account, if there is any activity in that area, will know A, have they been trying to meet someone for sex, and B, who will be in the pictures with their willy out.
On that bombshell, please don't leave
It's the
this,
honey
but
badger.
I am going to end the shows. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you've had fun.